Oh, hey you. It's Kat and Steve with the Positively Midwest podcast.
Well, hello there. Now, before this next episode, let's talk about sharing our mission.
To help, we have hooked up with Anchor.fm to help us keep launching Positively Midwest to as many ears as possible. The more we expand our reach, the more lives we can help inspire.
If you haven't heard of Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. Bonus, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Well, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, and many more.
You can make money with no minimum listenership, which helps our cause.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in just one place.
So go now, download free Anchor app or go to anchorapp.fm to get started.
Now, sit back and enjoy the next episode of the Positively Midwest podcast. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Positively Midwest. My name is Steve Jurens, and as always, usually, across from me is my wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous wife, Catherine.
Yeah, you just can't get rid of me that easy, can you there, dear?
Well, no, but sometimes you have to go to a basketball game or something like that, and here I am doing an episode all by myself.
Oh, yeah.
So, Catherine and I just recently gypsied back from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we had a really fun little experience. We thought, let's just kind of get out of town a little bit and get a little room, have a little pool action. But then I thought, hey, let's bring the dog with.
Oh, yeah.
So we brought little Onyx with, and if you are an avid listener of our show, you've heard her chime in from time to time, and boy, did she there too. But
she's not a fan of hotel rooms.
No, she was kind of panting a lot and a little anxious, but she barked a couple of times that we heard of, but we only left for maybe an hour and a half, and then who knows how many times it happened. So then we never got calls. So thank you to the the Clubhouse and Suites. They are a pretty cool hotel, honestly. Yeah. They have a little doggy area, so that was pretty cool. We were walking her.
Fire pit area that you can go and sit out and start a little fire.
Yeah. And then I picked up poop with Glad doggy waste bags. So I grew it up. Anyways, and then we took her to this cool little joint, the Precious Pets Grooming Salon and Doggy Daycare. Totally just Googled it. I know there's other ones out there, and you guys probably rock too. But our personal experience, the Positively Midwest experience so far, was their first day was free, which was cool. Mm-hmm. So we dropped her off, and I'm guessing she went buck wild. And then we picked her up 4 or 5 hours later, and she's pooped right now.
Yeah, they said that she played so well with the other dogs and made so many friends. And gosh, I just wish there was a camera that we could have tuned in and watched that.
Yeah, really. So anyways, that was super cool. If you ever get to the Sioux Falls area and you have a dog and you need to take a break or something, or you want your dog just have a really good time, I guess, take them there. They did a great job, and they seem pretty cool to work with. So yeah, we'll have to do that again. So let's get into this episode 66. And we are going to be speaking with Amber Siderewicz from the Beacon Center in Watertown, South Dakota. And they actually support victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. Amber, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Hey, everyone.
Let's pretend like there's 400 million people listening someday.
Woo!
That's the best feeling.
Or maybe don't think about it right now if it makes you nervous. I don't know, whatever.
Thank you so much for joining us, Amber.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for having me. And if it's okay, I can do a quick little intro about myself.
Yes, please do. That would be my next question, so you nailed it.
But for those listening, my name is Amber Siderewicz. I'm the Fund Development Coordinator here with Beacon Center, so I'm one of the behind-the-scenes ladies, but I still kind of know what's all going around the area.
Sorry.
Oops, sorry, I had her on mute for a second.
Yeah, he sometimes has to mute me out. No, that was a perfect way to introduce yourself.
Yes, and thank you for coming along with us. I was taking a look at some information, and according to thecompasscenter.org anyways, they say 1 out of 6 American women has been a survivor of an attempted or completed rape in her lifetime. And according to the doh.sd.gov, they say that South Dakota has the second highest rate of forcible rapes in the nation. That's according to Sutter from 2014. So I don't know updated, but with an average of 781 sexual offenses against persons occurring per year from 2012 to 2018.
Wow.
So, and then at least 4,000 children face sexual abuse each year too. So it's a very important subject. We have a couple of kids, and just for all the children and the people in the world, it's a difficult subject. So Amber, we do appreciate you being on, and maybe tell us a little bit if, about the Beacon Center, and then Catherine, you can ask some questions too.
Yeah. Yep.
I know you have.
And so all those listeners and stuff, some of the stuff that everybody's talking about may be hard. So if you need to step away, go get a drink of water, take a moment to yourself, because these are sometimes really hard topics. And domestic violence and sexual assault has sadly impacted almost everyone, or they know someone that's experienced it. So this is a hard subject. Please take a little bit of you time, and if you can, keep listening and learning more about Beacon Center to help others. So I'll dive right into Beacon Center. So originally it was known as the Women's Resource Center, then the Watertown Resource Center, and now we are known as Beacon Center. It originated in 1977. So just picture basically a plain room with some hopeful, inspirational posters on the walls in the basement of the Wagner Law Office that used to be here in Watertown. And really the only thing that they kind of started with was a big carpet in the middle with a phone, and that's it.
Wow.
So a group of individuals in this community saw that violence was in their community. People needed help. People needed a safe place to go to, or even just a safe person to talk with if their own family members were not the best support system. So these group of women and men and others who no longer wanted this violence to continue, they made it happen. They got a phone, they got their contact information, and they created a support system for this community. And so it's been, I think if my math is right, 44 years that it's been continuing and growing and creating more resources. So I'd like to give a big shout out to those founding mothers, is what we like to call them. Thank you for doing what you did in 1977 and all that you've done so far so that Beacon Center can continue helping those families.
And thank you so much to you and your team of amazing ladies over there that are continuing this legacy.
We try super hard, and it's such a good team. They got good hearts, good sense of humor, and we got to make sure that we're staying positive and do self-care. So, but Beacon Center is known as the Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Crisis Prevention Center. So that includes the shelter and then even prevention programs that I can go more into detail with.
Awesome. And then I know you guys also do things, didn't you, or at least you used to, where it's even like supervised visitation and things like that too, right, with some of those family members?
Yep, we do have supervised visitation and safe exchanges. There is a small fee for that portion of our services. Otherwise, the other stuff like crisis counseling, group therapy, the emergency shelter, 24-hour crisis line, education and outreach, common sense parenting, and a few other things. All of those are for free. And I hope it stays that way because no one should have to pay for counseling if they've experienced trauma, especially sexual assault or domestic violence.
Right. And I loved it. I've been in there where I've gotten to have that tour. And it's so much more than what you think when you drive by, what you guys have in that building and all of the options that you offer, and even the play therapy and things like that, and the sewing room for those to give them a life skill as well as a different form of therapy. The outreach is truly amazing. Yes.
I remember when I first interned here, I was still new to the area, so I wasn't quite sure where everything was and who people were. So when I got the tour of Beacon Center, I asked my supervisor, or soon-to-be supervisor, I should say, if we were going to go off-site to go check out the shelter. And she's like, nope, it's just right back here. And I was like, oh, that's neat.
Yeah, it just was kind of hidden, which is great. And it is just like there's so much bigger, and it's a bigger impact than what a lot of people realize within our community.
Yep. Yep.
Well, one thing I wanted to...
Open,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I was going to say, we're open 365 days a year, 24/7. So Christmas Day, Easter, you name it, no matter what time of day or holiday, someone's here to help you.
And I want people to kind of let that sink in for a second too, that you have to realize that, someone has to be there and readily available even on those holidays. And if there's, we like to find gratitude moments too, but, just think of the, how grateful those people are that someone is making that sacrifice to be there all the time from their own family or their own lives. And so that deserves some appreciation as well. And it also made me think earlier when you were talking about how this is something that I'm a large proponent on myself, is that why should someone have to pay for counseling when they're going through such, a traumatic experience? And, there's not very many insurance companies, for an instance, that will help cover, mental health therapy, counseling, no matter what the context is. And, but yet, you can go to the doctor for just about anything, and how all that goes. So, one of our kind of missions has always been to try to help, any organizations or help people in general get, therapy if they need to. So, I know that you guys, it might be free to the person seeking the help, but it's not free for you to do. You still have some bills to pay and keep the lights on, and things like that too. So, I know that you do different fundraisers, but can people go right to your website after we get through the interview and they listen? Can they go and donate directly to you, even if they're not from our area?
Yeah, most welcome to do so. We greatly appreciate all monetary donations. We literally would not be able to do what we do as a 501c3 nonprofit without our supporters and those who learn about Beacon Center, or those who want to bring light to those who might have been impacted by domestic violence or sexual assault. So, yep, it's at beaconcentersd.com. And on our homepage, we do have a secure online donation button through PayPal. And then our address is 801 Jensen Avenue, Southeast, Watertown, South Dakota.
Awesome. Okay, so I was taking a look at your website here and seeing some of the services that you do provide. And I thought maybe before we break them down, one question I had thought of earlier is maybe if this might be a blanketed answer, if you will, but what if someone was a victim of one of these situations? What is the first step they should do? How should they go about seeking assistance? Because I know you're emotional, you're frazzled, you're trying to grab maybe you got pets, your kids, whatever. So what kind of advice do you have for that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. One of the first things is recognizing that what is happening to you is not safe, and that it is abuse, and that you do not deserve what's happening to you. But it all goes about depending on the situation. If you're in immediate danger and you are in fear of your safety, please call 911. Law enforcement are there to help you. They can talk with you through it. And if you're unsure how that kind of conversation will go out, call the Beacon Center. You will have advocates talk with you, put together a safety plan. What are the basics that you might want to think about taking with you? So like your ID, the birth certificate, that kind of thing. Don't worry about the clothes. Don't worry about like the hygiene stuff. We got you. We have that here in our facility. So when someone does call the Beacon Center and they're talking with an advocate, and this is purely scenario, and they are in a situation where they can't call the law enforcement themselves, our advocates can call for them and let law enforcement know that this individual is unsafe and they are in need of needed help. So, and then even just stuff that's not immediate crisis. Let's say that something occurred in your childhood and it's you're not quite sure how to go about it, or if you're learning later in life that what you experienced as a child was domestic violence or was sexual assault, you can still come to the Beacon Center and talk with our advocates about potentially what happened to you as a child and how it's starting to impact you as an adult, and just different stages throughout your life too. So no matter if it happened to you 20 years ago or yesterday, you're more than welcome to call Beacon Center at 886-4204 and just have a discussion with someone about what domestic violence is, what sexual assault is, and what are some safety tips.
Yeah, because you have some, you've got like certified licensed counselors there that know how to deal with all of these situations. And, even if, so would you continue to see someone over a longer period of time, or do you kind of get them in to maybe assess some of their needs and then move them to like a different psychologist or counselor from there, or how does that kind of work?
If I remember right, with our counseling, it's not long-term. It honestly just depends, again, on the situation. So if someone's working on attachment, they might go through different techniques and different sessions with our counselor. It honestly just depends on what the counselor feels, if they're ready to move to a different counseling agency here in Watertown. It just depends.
Sure. Yeah, because there are so many different variables, and each situation is so different too. So
now, I know most of the time when we think of the domestic assault, we're thinking of women being affected by this. But you do offer resources for men as well, right? And that they can come to you and seek shelter if they're needing to get away from their home situation.
Men, women, and children. Yes, it's not just women, men, women, and children.
I think that's the big thing that a lot of people don't realize, is that there are those instances out there where it's kind of like that flipped of what the stereotyping is for,
Yeah.
And so I do know, like, when I've toured your facility before, obviously when you give tours, it's because there's nobody staying back there currently. It's not like people are being given tours when there's people being housed. And so I know that you guys had a separate room with a separate entrance and stuff for if there was a man needing to stay, so that way they're not having that same communal close interaction with women or children that are there as well, correct?
Yes. That was our universe room. It was, since our shelter currently isn't a co-ed one, we did have that specialized room so that it could have its own utilities. So the bathroom, washer, dryer. Actually, not too many know about some of the progress that's going on over at Beacon Center. So you guys are one of the very few to hear this. We're hoping to make it, so currently it's a 6-room community-style shelter, but we're hoping it's going to turn into an 8-room apartment-style shelter.
Holy smokes.
So, yeah. So I can't tell you the details. It's still very fresh and new. We're right in the beginning. But some big milestones are happening here at Beacon Center for a shelter, and we'll be able to house more. They'll be more comfortable. They'll have their own individual rooms, and they'll have their bathroom and their small kitchen area that's inside there. So, Catherine, if you remember the universal room, it'll be semi-similar to that, but 8 of them.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what, like we talked about, you guys run this off of donations, because it's not like federally covered, right? It's like everything you do is based off of grants or donations, correct?
Yep, it's grants, community, and then I don't know all of them, but state, and then monetary donations from our community members. Yep.
Wow, what an impact. I mean, and that is truly amazing, because the housing setup the way it currently is awesome, but I can see where those that maybe are wanting to have a little bit more privacy or alone time, as they're working through their situations, that, might be a little bit harder to be in the communal space that is currently there. I could see where some would want to have that little bit more of your university style or your, separate little space.
Yeah, and we kind of leaned towards, we realized during COVID that it was really hard for our folks that were staying there to stay 6 feet apart, and it was hard to share those community areas like the bathroom and the kitchen while living comfortably and being able to heal with their own.
Wow. Well, and I'm kind of glad that you brought up COVID, because that made me think of another point too. One thing that I had heard, and I don't have any numbers on, but I know there's some validity there, that during COVID, in a lot of areas that were more of a lockdown situation, kids weren't going to school, parents couldn't go to work. I know alcohol consumption, alcohol abuse, as well as domestic violence, and the numbers rose a lot. I don't know if it's exponentially or not, but quite a bit. So I don't know if you saw an influx in the number of people that you saw over the last year, but when we talk about, and I don't necessarily mean to soapbox, but when we talk about, taking care of each other, when it comes to, whether it's wearing a mask or whether it's, getting the shots or anything like that, there's a lot of serious preventable, possibly, issues out there. And I think this is one of them. Did you see an influx in that kind of issue with people over the last year or so?
Specifically in the Watertown area, I don't have numbers, but as a domestic violence and sexual assault crisis center, we look towards national programs, national sites that were letting us know, hey, with COVID and people being isolated, there are higher chances for domestic violence, and rates are expected to go up because resources are cut. Children aren't in schools for our teachers to keep an eye on them, type of thing. So we were kind of expecting an influx as well. It was somewhat quiet. It honestly just depended on the day. We're starting to pick up a lot more now. We served over 460 individuals that were impacted by domestic violence or sexual assault in 2020. Those are still really big numbers. And I'm grateful that we were able to serve that many.
Wow.
But as Beacon Center, we tried super hard to make sure we remain socially distanced. Folks still wear masks here at the center. And then we request visitors to as well. Just being careful, being respectful of people's spaces, and making sure things are clean. Again, we would not have been able to do what we do throughout that year without our amazing supporters. Watertown, the surrounding areas really, really showed up, and they really supported us all the way through that. We had folks stop in, giving monetary donations, making sure that our facility had cleaning supplies or toilet paper or even extra things like paper towels and stuff. So it's hard to say that we struggled because our community really showed up and made sure that we had those resources.
That's amazing. And I'm hoping that there's similar, centers wherever some of the listeners are. I'm sure we could find a way to help them find something locally for themselves. But, it just shows that, COVID was hard on, I think, so many people on so many different levels. The extra precautions that people have to take, and then the situations where if there were more people at home, it made for some of those those numbers to rise up. I know we've had in other episodes, the suicidal numbers have increased too, and just mental health in general has struggled in the last year or so. So it's even more amazing to me and us, I think, to highlight people like you and highlight organizations like you. And if we are spending more time at home, and they're probably listening to Positively Midwest, hopefully they're going to, become more familiar with people like you, and just, I want to throw that stuff out there. So, you do realize if you have it really good in life, I always believe, give back. And so if you have the ability and you've got a couple extra cents in your pocket, throw it to the Beacon Center or to something that you engage with, And I know this isn't a passion of yours, And so we want to help emulate that and get it out to the world. So
I also know that even if you don't have a few extra cents in your pocket, but you are doing your spring cleaning and you have great gently used items, right? They can take them over to the community corner, right? And they can donate them in your guys' names. That way the profit that's made off of those items gets donated to you. Is that correct, Amber?
Yes, absolutely. Yep, community corner here in Watertown, South Dakota.
okay, so sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to quick comment. When you mentioned the different types of stressors, we always try to keep in mind that everyone has stressors, and then with the COVID, the folks that come here, our clients, they had their day-to-day stressors, their healing, their counseling sessions, those characteristics of the impact of how they were victimized, those stressors, and then COVID on top of it. So it just took one hard pandemic and put it on top of another. And so that was one of the things we wanted to keep in mind as we were serving folks throughout that bad pandemic year.
And that's where that kindness, we talk about always can go a long way, is because sometimes, you cannot tell what others are all going through. So that smile and those kind words that you have out in public might be the only kind words that somebody has heard in a day. And so them alone can be making a difference. That, and then Maggie, right? Your guys' shelter dog. Maggie makes a difference in everyone's day as well.
Absolutely. The simplest good morning and hope you have a good day can really change someone's outlook on how the day is going. Yes.
Yeah, you don't realize how important that can be for some people.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead. We're here for you. Rock and roll.
One of our advocates here, and I love this story, so I'll share it with you guys. She remembers it was just kind of a regular day, having our clients come in for pantry donations and stuff. And she was one of our newer ones. And she remembers, she said good morning. And the individual is like, no one's ever really said that to me before, like happily. And so our coworker just remembers like her expression, her face lighting up, and just knowing that one act of kindness really did change her whole entire day. And so we try to be positive and be kind as much as possible when we're here, either if that's a phone call or an in-person interaction. It truly, anything that you do does make a difference. So
yeah,
always be kind.
That's beautiful. Just think if everybody, tried 10% more, in their life and their day-to-day, or did something to pay it forward, or even just a smile. Sometimes, you see that person in the store and they're just really grumpy looking, and you wonder, gosh, I wonder, what happened, or maybe they're not crabby and I'm just judging them. But either way, you never know. Like you said, one little random act of kindness, how it can maybe even change someone's life. I've heard of stories where people on the verge of, making a permanent decision, and, something happened to them and it just changed their course of action, and they didn't go through with it.
Yes.
So,
oh my gosh, I love that. Yes.
That's kind of a dramatic example, but, they're out there. So, okay. So I'm taking a look at beaconcentersd.com. And some of these we've talked about, but so we talked about the 24-hour crisis line, because people can go here and they can click and learn more of what you guys do. We talked a bit about the emergency shelter and the counseling. What would you consider the legal advocacy section that you guys provide?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about that.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. So at first, we had advocates that were able to talk with victims who came in needing help filling out a protection order. And so the legal system and all of that paperwork can sometimes be really overwhelming. So if you just had something like a physical assault the night before, and then you have to go and figure out all this paperwork by yourself, it seems really scary, but we do have advocates here that can walk you through it and explain where to take things at the courthouse, but we actually now have an attorney on staff, which is sometimes really rare. And
wow.
it's huge blessing to have her on staff. She's been going to court cases. She's been teaching us, the rest of the staff here at Beacon Center, more and more every day. She's incredible. I love her. So having that part of Beacon Center to go even further with legal advocacy will connect a client that comes in needing advice or discussing a scenario, what it might look like if they do go to court, and just having that one individual that can talk about their situation safely and with great legal advice.
That was perfect. So then I see this kind of calls out to me too. We talked about the Family Visitation Center, and then Common Sense Parenting. Give me a little elaboration on that.
Yep. Our executive administrator is the instructor with Common Sense Parenting. So basically, we'll have folks sign up for the course. And if I remember right, it is like 2 times a year, and it's a couple weeks. Basically, working on better boundaries, better relationships with your children, you becoming a better parent, just really guided advice and techniques on how to work through some of those tough times as a parent. And it's on Monday from 5:30 to 7. And if I remember right, it's a program out of Watertown.
Okay.
Building healthy relationships and just being able to openly talk about some of the scenarios that may be happening at home that you really struggle with. I'm not a parent. I have a dog. But talking with my coworkers and stuff that do have children, it's just a great way to openly talk about some of the struggles that do come with parenting, because it's not easy from what I've heard. There are so many things and hardships and stressors that new parents have, and so it's just a great program to enter.
Perfect.
And more. Yeah,
that's very important, because it can be a really scary time for newbies. It's been 100 years since we've had kids, but so I'm also looking here at Catherine mentioned Maggie. So Threads of Hope. That looks like a pretty neat program. What's that all about?
Yep. So the person that was in fund development before me, she saw that this program was in different domestic violence shelters and saw that it was really beneficial for the clients that were there. Basically, it's a room full of thread, fabric, and hope. And so we invite clients who want to learn how to sew or a lot of them don't have sewing machines at home, so they're able to utilize those and just have that time to work with their hands, take their minds off whatever they're thinking about. And before COVID, when we were able to have more folks in the room, it was just a good conversation and talking with a friend and kind of just relaxing and working with each other.
Wow. Got a lot of different things you're teaching over there. So, so one of the last things I see on here is the Pet Safe Haven. Tell me about that.
Oh, I love this. Okay. So I get super excited because it is something that not many people think about.
Mm-hmm.
So Westside Animal Clinic here in Watertown, South Dakota allows for folks to have their pets safely board there. So if someone is in a dangerous situation and they leave their home, a lot of times they're worried about their dog or their cat, ferret, or bunny being harmed by the abuser at home if they do decide or if they can leave the home. So they bring their animal with them, or they bring their animal with them, take them to Westside Animal Clinic, and Dr. Lewis will make sure they stay safe over there too.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a big dog lover. I can't imagine my Tippy being hurt in any way, so I wouldn't want anyone else's dog to be abuse either.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great partnership. It's so great. That's the one thing about the Midwest is that we have such a strong sense of community, and that whole where it takes a village to raise a child. We really have that whole takes a village to help look out for one another. And that's what is so amazing about the Beacon Center is when you see everyone rallying around each other. And all of you that do work there and volunteer there, you're such great advocates because you're all so passionate about wanting to help.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of folks that do go into our field, they know in some way or form what it feels like to be on the other side. And so that just creates a lot of passion. It creates a want to educate others on why it's so important to not have violence in our community and to be better humans.
Perfect.
To be better humans.
Myself, I too knew someone at a younger age who was impacted by domestic violence and sexual assault. And so growing up and understanding that, I just wanted to really help people. And especially, I'm a huge advocate for kiddos. So if a child did grow up in a home that did have domestic violence and sexual violence, it is a dangerous thing, and it's really scary, but everything's going to be okay. And violence does not decide your future.
Yeah,
that was one of the biggest things for me personally, and so that's why I love working at Beacon Center and making sure that families get the resources that they need and a safe place to stay.
That's very admirable because it does take a very special person to do what you do and to see what you see and to go through what you go through. And I don't think anyone can deny that there has to be times in the past, present, future, where you've been connected to someone and you've seen it happen to them maybe multiple times over again, or maybe for some reason they don't get help or something. They get stuck in that cycle, but that's got to be very difficult for you and for counselors to not be able to, fully help someone sometimes or just see them kind of get in there. So, we say a special prayer for people like you because of how difficult that must be on you guys at sometimes too.
Yeah, it is tough work, but that's why we are so we try really hard with self-care, and not just self-soothing, but self-care. So making sure you make those dentist appointments and taking a little bit of you time, get away for the weekend kind of thing. And because in order to help others, you have to make sure you're okay too.
Yeah, that was great. So just a quick thing, when you go to beaconcentersd.com, you can go to, there's the Get to Know Us, it's got your hours, who you serve, meet the team, what we do, and that's where we went through and talked about all the different options you have available. And then there's a Get Help tab too, so that covers, there's different tabs for domestic violence, sexual assault, child sexual abuse, teen dating violence, disability and abuse, elder abuse, strangulation, stalking, and victim rights. And I know in each of those tabs you've got information explaining what that might mean, even different links or how to get a hold of someone. And one thing I want you to tell me and the listeners about, even though I know what it does, but tell me, this is how prepared you are, how intelligent you are, and everything that you guys do. Tell me about the quick escape button on the website.
So, if someone is on our website and they're looking at some of our resources or what some of the terminology is on our website, the quick escape button allows them to get off that site, so that if there is an abuser or perpetrator that's monitoring what they're doing, they won't see that. So it's basically what the button says, the quick escape from our webpage to elsewhere, so that their abuser or their perpetrator doesn't see what they're looking at. Because potentially, if they are looking at, if they are caught, if they are in that type of situation, and I really hope no one is, it just takes you to a quick Google page so that the perp or the abuser does not see what you are looking at.
Yeah, I don't know if innovative is the right word, but it just, as I was clicking through on things, I I thought, well, what's this? And I click on it and just boom, Google popped up. And I thought, oh, that's, I get it now, so if someone's coming into the other room and you can hear them, boom, you can click on that and get right out of it. And then it doesn't look like you were just sitting staring at your desktop. It's, I was just going to Google, something. So that's, yeah.
I'm always amazed.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm just always amazed by everything that you guys offer and do.
We try to learn every day. And so with trainings and with each other, if one of us reads a book, we'll share it with the rest of the team. We do. Sometimes I forget. I accidentally I don't list one of the things that we do. I'm like, shoot. I totally didn't even talk about that in the presentation.
Well, there is tons of information out there. I mean, you have so many things that you guys are capable of helping people with that there's no way that you can even keep up with all of that. So that's why we want to help highlight it too, so people can go out there, seek that information, or, maybe there is a similar organization in your area, since we do have listeners kind of all across the area. But anyways, it's just, I don't know. I can't imagine, how difficult it can be. And when we talk about Positively Midwest and staying positive, you do such a great job doing that. And I'd like to kind of wind down with some Amber advice, if you will, Amber's Corner. And I want you to leave us with something. We're also going to go to the shameless plug zone after this, so you can give us all of your information, how to follow you and find you and call you and everything. But give us some advice on how can people stay so positive and find gratitude when you're dealing with such an underbelly of the society, some of the darkest things that can happen to people. Give us a little bit of motivation there, inspiration, if you will.
Yeah. I guess it just goes down to the basics. Remembering the good things. There's bad and there's good, but the good is always so much better. And thinking of other people. Most of us like to do good and help others. And so even though you hear about all the bad things, knowing that you can do something, and it doesn't have to be like a big movement. You don't have to help like 1,000 people or hundreds or whichever. Just helping one person can really go a long way. Back to that act of kindness. And here at Beacon Center, we do have situations that we hear about, and it just kind of breaks your heart a little bit to hear that happened to an individual on this earth. But seeing them get better, seeing them make accomplishments, and just living again reminds you that the work that you do is really important, and the kindness that you do for others will go a really long way. And in your community especially, like I mentioned earlier, this community is absolutely incredible. We have folks, businesses that do charities a month, and then just being good bystanders, being good friends, being that open person that people can trust. I always talk about each time I'm on radio or something, but if someone does decide that you're their safe person to disclose something to, your reaction matters more than words. The way you react, the way you respond can sometimes lead to if they just decide to get more help or not. And so just being gentle, having a listening ear, and being accepting and believing. Believing is the number one thing. So if someone does disclose something, no matter if it is violence or if it's a different topic that's very personal to someone, just be a good person and listen and be kind and accept what they have to tell you. That's just a few of the things that I keep in mind when working with others in this field and just overall.
That was amazing, Amber. Thank you for that wonderful rendition of Amber's Corner. But in all seriousness, that is a great advice, and it is amazing, and it makes me kind of want to flip it just for a second because of a post that I actually did in our group earlier just today, April 5th. But anyways, it was about active listening, and that's something we've talked about in other episodes. But where I want to flip it for just a second too is if you happen to be listening and it's because you are going through personal development or personal growth, or you're considering counseling, because we're big proponents of that. Well, we are really working hard to help destigmatize the counseling and the therapy. And maybe you're listening and you are that person that gets very angry or has caused, domestic violence, or, been very close to it, or you have those thoughts. There are ways that you can get help for that. And, there are programs to get assistance. I will ask you this, if you are one of those people, Amber, do you also help that side of the situation as well? Or is it more after you have been victimized? Just to kind of clarify, otherwise we can help get those guys some information as well.
Good question. We mostly help with the folks who've been victimized by domestic or sexual violence. We haven't helped too many abusers with resources. Mm-hmm. It mostly goes down to supporting victims. I know there are places here in Watertown that provide counseling for those that have experienced violence and that they've inflicted on others. So yes, there is help out there, and I'm sure if you call 211, which is another resource other than the counseling agencies, they can direct you to get help as well.
Definitely. Perfect. Well, you answered that great. It just kind of makes me, that's what I like about our interviews is we're a little raw, we're a little organic, and sometimes we learn with the listeners. So as a question pops into my head, I'm thinking, hey, I know there's been times where, people get very, very angry, and maybe one of my favorite quotes is don't make a permanent mistake because you're temporarily upset. Anger is a very powerful weapon or emotion, excuse me.
And everyone has their own story, so sometimes we need help to kind of go through those emotions or those thoughts. Everyone's human. Everyone has their story, and it's okay to get help, no matter what you've been through or what you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's exactly what we try to talk about too, and it's great to have so many different perspectives of that. But the one common core thing we do hear or get advice on or talk about is that once you kind of realize there is a problem, you got to reach out. You got to ask somebody for a little bit of help. And we're finding more and more of these organizations that are dedicated to sleepless nights and long hours, helping people out daily. And you're one of them. So just know that you're a very amazing individual.
And you can certainly, on both sides, can overcome, like you said, if you're a child and you went through this, if you're an adult and you went through this, while it's a part of your past, it doesn't necessarily define who you are. Sometimes it can define like what you want to do with life, but you can change the rest of your story and you can rewrite your book to overcome those situations.
100%. Yes, Catherine. Yes.
She's so smart.
It all relies on good support systems and being positive. Positively Midwest, I've gone through your guys' website, and I've been listening to your guys' podcast. There's so much good stuff. So listeners, if you haven't listened to their podcast, continue listening to their podcast and continue learning more.
Holy smokes.
Such good stuff.
Thank you. You rock.
We are proponents of therapy, but we have talked about, and sometimes we'll dive into more, like I was a child that did not realize what was maybe going on in others' households until I started dating Steven or, started making my friends in high school, learning like my childhood that I was so blessed compared to like what he lived through as a child. And so it's like using our story now as a difference of seeing his side to my flip side, it's like we need to definitely pay gratitude for what we are given, because we don't realize, especially as kids, what is happening inside those other households. So it's continuing to pay gratitude and to grow.
Yeah. Perspective. Continue learning as many as you can. That's one of the things I try to remember as well. You never know what's going on at home. People look different during the day, what they might be experiencing at home. So you never know what's going on.
Yeah, that's another reason why I called it Positively Midwest, because it's we're still pretty traditional around here, and it's in our genes, in our hereditary mindsets to suppress a lot of problems and sometimes deal with them with alcohol and drugs. And alcohol is totally okay to get a little overboard on. Partying's quite popular, well, everywhere, not just here, but some of that traditional mindset we still deal with. So, okay, Amber, let us enter what I've weirdly called the shameless plug zone. But in your case, it's even more important because we're trying to really, really help people. So we've talked about beaconcentersd.com, but tell us how we can call you, how we can email you, how we can find you on the social media platforms, because I know you post really good, informative things on there. And then I'm going to throw a lot of this information in the description too. So when you are done listening, listeners, feel free to click upon all of their links, follow them, and give them millions of dollars, preferably 2.3 million is my goal. And boom, go ahead and fire off. Tell us everything.
Yep. Oh, well, again, thank you all for listening and learning more about Beacon Center. We're not the only domestic violence or sexual assault crisis center here in the United States or elsewhere. But our website is beaconcentersd.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram, which is at Beacon Center SD. Our phone number is 886-4304. If you're not from the area, it's 605-886-4304. And then our general email for Beacon Center is admin@beaconcentersd.com. And then those, I also wanted to include this before I forget, those that aren't from our area or in our coverage area, or even in South Dakota, there are resources out there for you. I know this is kind of an easy peasy, simple comment of advice, but Google domestic violence shelters near me. Go to domesticviolenceshelters.org and look at different locations. Or if you can, go to different resources in your community to see if there is one and you haven't heard about them yet. What if they're really small and they haven't branched out? But there are shelters and there is help for you out there. So Google, ask a friend, ask a family member. If you're in the school system, ask for resources from counselors. They do really good work, and even teachers. Or even if there's a trusted adult in your life that you want to talk more about with certain subjects, definitely reach out. So, again, thank you all. Check out our website, beaconcentersd.com.
And thank you very much. And let that be another example of how to use technology in a positive way, because if we didn't have the Googles or the Ask Jeeves or whatever is still around, Yahoos, you wouldn't be able to just Google a situation like that and find some assistance. So we're a firm believer in preaching, if you will, that technology is what you make it. There is a lot of crap on Facebook and other things like that, but you can find positive pages to follow and positive podcasts to listen to and websites to visit and help people like you.
Yes, and we're so grateful for you who is striving to continue to make a difference and help to change lives.
Perfect. You did a great job. So thank you very much for helping us help others, maybe.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. And if anyone has any questions, like I said, shoot us a message on Facebook or even our email, and we'll try to help you the best that we can.
Perfect.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. Thank you. We're just going to use this for this coming Wednesdays, so I can also email you over a copy just so you've got one. But it'll come out Wednesday at 7 a.m. And you did a very wonderful job. So thanks again for being on.
Perfect. Alrighty.
Okay. Well, you
guys have a good night.
You too. Thanks, Amber. You did great.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye. Well, my dear, what do you think?
I've gotten to go to the Beacon Center a couple times for tours when I've been there to make monetary donations, or what she was talking about with other hygiene, cleaning products, things like that, when I've done drives, and they truly do amaze me. The group that works there are phenomenal women, and what they do in a day and their outreach, you will be so surprised if you walk through those doors.
Yeah. And I think, you should maybe take a moment to go on to the internet and do a little bit of research. If this was an episode, or if it's a situation or a subject that, engages you somehow or another, go find some information for your state, for your area. I think you would be very surprised, and do your diligence and your research, but look up some of these domestic violence and sexual assaults and different things like that. You would be surprised how many people are affected. And when you go about your day to day and you see someone having a bad day, you have no idea, especially if it's a kid or something like that. Even just dealing with a little bit of the alcoholism and verbal abuse that I dealt with, that's stuff I still deal with today and still go to counseling, and I talk about it every so often. So I couldn't imagine what physical abuse or, it said in one of these stats, over 10 million children a year witness that domestic violence. So that's a lot. That's a lot of people. So
definitely. So like Amber said, just be a good human and help to share some kindness, because while we take it for granted, it may be the only kindness that somebody saw in that day.
Perfect. Okay, well, I'm going to close this episode because the sun's going down and I can't see much anymore.
And that's what happens when we forget to turn on the ceiling lights because it's so bright and shiny out the windows.
We're silly. So, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, let's close this baby out. Thank you, everybody, from the bottom of our hearts for listening to the Positively Midwest podcast. Our hope is to inspire, engage each other's thoughts, and leave you with some great advice. Be sure to join our Facebook group. Follow us on Instagram at Positively Midwest Podcast. Make sure you like, comment, share, and screenshot our podcast with all your cool friends. Every little bit helps. We're on most all major platforms, and you can stream it on our website at PositivelyMidwest.com. Thank you, and as always, please always stay positive.